What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined this morning by Daniel Starkand, here to talk a little bit of all-star voting for the Dodgers. Daniel, some good news and some bad news for the Dodgers earlier this week when the first round of all-star voting results came out. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez, all advancing to phase 2 in the all-star voting, but Will Smith and Freddie Freeman do not. Will Smith did not because he finished third among catchers, only 2 advance. And Freddie Freeman did not because while he finished second among first basemen, Bryce Harper was the overall vote-getting winner and therefore automatically is the starter, and there's no more voting for first baseman. So at first glance, give me your reaction to these 5 results.
I mean, I'm happy for the first 3 guys and bummed out for the last 2, I'd say, especially, Will Smith in particular. Like, he's been the best catcher in the NL for sure, maybe the best catcher in baseball overall. I know he's been slumping a little over the last week or so, but he's been great all year, and feels like a yearly thing with him. And I think part of it has to do with, like, outside of Dodger fans, like, he's not as well known perhaps as some of the other guys across the league. So, like, Dodger fans, I'm sure, are voting for Will Smith, but you might not have other people voting for him the same way they would for Mookie or Shohei or whatever the case may be. So it is a bummer to see, Will Smith not make it, especially when, like, one of the other options is JT Realmuto, who A, is hurt, and B, was not having a season anywhere close to Will Smith. So it is a bummer there, but I still think he has a good chance of making the team as a reserve. So yeah, it's just a bum. I'm just bummed for Will, I'd say.
Yeah, and I guess if JT Realmuto ends up being voted in as the starter, there's a chance that Will Smith could get selected and then named the starter. Going through these guys, obviously Mookie Betts in the same boat. He's hurt. He leads, and he still leads National League shortstops in wins above replacement, despite missing the last couple weeks. Ohtani, obviously first among designated hitters. Teoscar Hernandez, fifth among National League outfielders. There's a fun stat. I guess not fun, funny stat. The Padres have the number 1, the number 2, and the number 4 outfielder in the National League, according to wins above replacement, with Profar Tatis and Jackson Merrill. So hilarious there. They are still irrelevant, which is good. Bryce Harper, second in the National League in wins above replacement among first basemen, but second by a wide margin, third as well behind him. And then we mentioned Will Smith, third among National League catchers in voting, number 1 in wins above replacement, slightly ahead of Contreras, despite the fact that, as we've talked about on this show, he's been in a slump for the last week, 2 weeks or so. Dave Roberts had some interesting quotes about this, Daniel, and I'll read the quote. The headline is "Get off your hands and start voting." Here's the full quote. He said, "It's interesting because a lot of it is based on popularity in certain fan bases that are more active voting. My encouragement for Dodgers fans is to get off your hands and start voting for your players. Because you look at all these other fan bases, the players aren't nearly having the seasons that our guys are having, and they're leading the fan voting. So that's what's disappointing for me as a manager, because the players are not going to promote themselves. So it's all about fans supporting their players." The second phase of voting for Betts, Ohtani, and Hernandez begins Sunday morning and runs through the morning of July 3rd. You can vote on the Dodgers website as well as the MLB app. But look, I think we all should. When I posted about the voting results yesterday, the response I got from a lot of fans was the exact same thing as Dave Roberts. Like, this isn't a Dave Roberts calling people out inappropriately. I think it's right to say, hey, we lead the league in attendance every single year. We play in one of the largest markets, if not the largest market. We have one of the, if not the largest fan base. Why are our best players losing? Like, why is Will Smith third in catching behind a guy from Milwaukee, so to speak? So I imagine you have no issue with anything that Dave Roberts said here.
I have zero issue, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm on there voting every day. So I'm part of the problem here, obviously. Yeah. Like, I know a lot of fans, like, their first thought isn't like, let me go put in my 5 votes because, to get Will Smith to the All-Star game or whatever. But it's true, like, Dodger fan, and like, even more so why Dodger fans need to go out and vote is because, like, the reality of the situation is that other fan bases do not like the Dodgers. So you can't rely on, casual fans who are going and filling out their ballots to vote for all the Dodgers, just because most of them hate the Dodgers and don't want to see Dodgers in the All-Star game. So that means Dodger fans even more so need to go out and vote. So It's an unfortunate situation, and we've seen in the past, like Dodger fans are capable of going out and voting for their guys. Like I remember when Justin Turner was in like the final vote or whatever, and Dodger fans really committed to that. He blew everyone out of the water in that voting. So it's definitely a possibility, and I think even looking at myself in the mirror and all of us, like we could all be better. Like I'm pretty sure I was looking this morning, like they only let you vote like 5 times a day or whatever. And I know phase 1 is over, but phase 2 is coming up, and it's going to be important for us to get out and vote. So, it takes like 2 minutes to go and vote 5 times every day. So I think all of us should kind of commit and do that to get a guy like Teoscar, who's very deserving. Like you just mentioned, there's 3 Padres in there or whatever. They're going to be out there voting as well. So a guy like Teo definitely deserves it. So I definitely think Dodger fans need to be better in this second round here coming up this upcoming week.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting piece here, right? As far as like who are the guys who are deserving. If I'm looking up National League outfielders who are in contention here, let's see. Oh, this is all American League. Teoscar Hernandez, Jurickson Profar, Christian Yelich, Fernando Tatis Jr., Brandon Marsh, and Nick Castellanos. So you've got Phillies and Brewers fans, which apparently are fantastic at voting for their all-star guys. And then you've got Profar and Tatis in there as well. So if you needed more motivation here, Dodgers fans, like, do you really want to see Profar and Tatis starting the All-Star game? Do you want to see Brandon Marsh and Nick Castellanos starting the All-Star game? Christian Yelich? Like, come on. These are all guys that we don't want to see starting the All-Star game. So go ahead and vote for Teoscar Hernandez, especially. I think Ohtani's going to be fine. Mookie Betts is injured, but Teoscar's the guy, I'm with you, that I'm zooming in on. I'm curious on the pitching side, Daniel, because when you look at batting, the 5 guys we've mentioned, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Smith, Hernandez, are kind of the 5 only guys who are in contention for making the All-Star team as far as qualified at bats, that kind of a thing. But on the pitching side, there is no fan voting. It's all player voting and then manager selections. And there's some interesting names when it comes to the Dodgers. I think Tyler Glasnow, who leads the Dodgers and wins above replacement at 2.9, I think he's a safe bet to make the All-Star game. The interesting one is Gavin Stone. He's 14th in the National League in wins above replacement, but there are guys like Yamamoto who are ahead of him who are injured. He's 5th in ERA, and he is qualified for ERA based on innings pitched so far. In your estimation, obviously you and I are not experts on the top 15 pitchers in the National League. There's going to be relievers mixed in. Does Gavin Stone have a compelling case to make the All-Star team?
Yeah, well, first of all, Gavin is having like an outstanding season. Like I think even those of us who hadn't sold our Gavin Stone stock yet before this season, like even us, we're like impressed with what he's doing this season. I don't think anyone really expected this. I guess what he has working against him is just like that offense as a whole is down this season, and pitching has been phenomenal. So like, even though most seasons the numbers he's putting up, he probably would be an all-star lock. Like this season, there's like 15 other guys that are having very similar seasons. And of course, like Gavin's not striking out like a ton of guys, so it's not as eye-popping as some of the other options. But I do think he's having an all-star season, and he deserves, consideration here. And I think what he does have going for him is that he's really come on strong in the last like couple weeks. And I think when they're going to put the all-star team together, like the fact that he just threw a complete game shutout, like that's fresh in people's minds. And then you look at the overall numbers and they match as well. Like if you were to compare that, like let's say he started off really good and he's kind of tailed off in the last few weeks, like he wouldn't have as much momentum. So I do think he has that going for him, but obviously he's not like a big name guy. And I think if there's kind of a tiebreaker, they'll give it to the better quote unquote star or the more known guys. So it's going to be tough, but I think you see a lot with pitching, like guys get injured or guys pitched the weekend before. So they're like, I'll go to the All-Star game, but I'm not pitching in it. So they have, there ends up being like 3 or 4 replacements. And I think that's probably what we'll see with Gavin Stone, where he doesn't make the original team, but then 3 or 4 guys bow out and then somehow he finds his way onto the roster. And I'm rooting for it to happen. Like that'd be really cool in your rookie season on a team like the Dodgers, for you to be one of the 5 or 6 guys to make the All-Star team. I think that'd be really cool.
We all need to get on the Matt Moreno bandwagon and start hyping up pitchers' wins, I think is the key here. His 9 wins, only 2 pitchers have more. Suarez and Chris Sale both have 10. Stone is in a group of guys who have 9. I mentioned he's 5th in ERA, but he's 16th in wins above replacement among National League pitchers. And guys like Yamamoto actually don't qualify. So Yamamoto has a higher wins above replacement, but among qualified pitchers, he's not even on that list. And so I'm with you. I think ERA is going to be his best chance. He currently, like I said, 2.73 ERA. He's tied with Zach Wheeler, and he's 0.06 behind Christopher Sanchez of the Phillies. So if Stone continues on this run, 11 starts, 1.90 ERA, if he can get that ERA below Sanchez, below Wheeler, to where he's third in the National League, which again is 0.06 is the gap between those three right now, I think that would be the argument. If all of a sudden that ERA gets down to 2.5 something and he's third in the National League, that would be the case for Stone. The other name I was going to mention, or I guess I should say names, is Dodger bullpen arms. Are there any bullpen arms? I mean, Evan Phillips is a guy that I'd love to see make an All-Star team. Mm-hmm. He's been injured. Alex Vesia is the other guy who's had a great season, but again, he's not a closer. Wins above replacement isn't super high. So do you think Phillips or Vesia or somebody else in that group has a chance? Or do you think because of injuries and usage that they're going to kind of fall short?
Yeah, I think Vesia is having an outstanding year. He's probably been like a top 5 reliever in the NL this year, and I think he deserves consideration. But I think the key is, like, if you're not getting a ton of saves, you're probably not going to get much consideration as an all-star, like when you're a reliever. So I think all Dodger relievers kind of have that working against them. Like, they don't have a guy that has like 20 saves right now, and there probably are 3 or 4 other closers in the NL that have been really good and are just as worthy, and they kind of get the tiebreaker because they got all the saves. So I'd say it's a possibility for someone like Vesia. Like, his numbers are really eye-poppingly good. Like, when your ERA starts with a 1 and you're striking
1.
out
1.2,
like almost below 1, and you're striking out like a ton of dudes. I definitely think you're having an all-star caliber season. It's just a tough list to crack when you're not, when you don't have the saves to go along with it.
Yeah, and when you're a Dodger and you're already going to have 4 or 5 or 6 teammates making the list. Because if all 5 of those position players make it, obviously Mookie will make it and then fall off. But that would give you at least 4 or 5 Dodgers. We talked about Glasnow as a guy that we all think is going to make it. So we're already looking at like 6 Dodgers before you get to Stone, Phillips, Vesia, those types of guys. So just an interesting thing to mention. I mean, look, Daniel Hudson has been great, 31 innings, 1.7 ERA for him as well. But Vesia, 1.26 ERA with 12 strikeouts per 9. Ridiculous stuff from him.
And just to kind of add on to what makes it even more challenging for him is the fact that every single team needs at least one representative. Yep. And sometimes you have a team like the Rockies where no one's
There you go.
Really
I was going to say, what team are we insulting today, Daniel? Let's get after it.
You got a team like the Rockies where they got no All-Stars, but they have like one random reliever with like a 2.2 ERA. So they just give it to him, and he takes Vesia's spot. So it's definitely challenging for a reliever.
I love it. As soon as you started, I was like, Daniel's gonna throw somebody under the bus. We're not tackling the Pirates. Pirates are good this year, so we've got to shift. The Rockies, always a safe bet. Tanner Scott for the Marlins feels like a safe bet.
There you go.
So shout out to teams like that. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below. I think the interesting question is, does Gavin Stone have a compelling case? And again, as Dodgers fans, it's easy to say yes, but look at the numbers. Look who he's up against. Let us know what you think. And then Vesia, Hudson, Phillips, the 3 other guys that I think probably deserve consideration, but because they're on the Dodgers, they may fall short. Hey, folks, if you haven't already, subscribe, ring the notification bell here. If you've been paying attention, I'm in Reno right now, and the Oklahoma City Baseball Club is here, so I've been getting tons of interviews. We've got 7 interviews booked. I think 2 of them are up. We've got batting practice up. We're going to have video from River Ryan's start last night. We've got interviews with Justin Robleski, who's another prospect pitching for the Dodgers, on Saturday night, as well as the manager. A ton of guys. Andre Lipsius coming up. So fun stuff. Make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell here as well, and check up on that. Dodgers Giants this weekend. Live post-game show tonight. We'll be back live on Sunday night as well. So thanks for joining us. That is Daniel. I am Jeff. Enjoy the rest of your day. As always, go Dodgers.